Welcome back to the 17 News at Noon podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Noon.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us for 17 News at Noon. I'm Maddie Jansen, in today for Nicole Gitsky. The fallout continues today after the siege on our nation's capital by pro-Trump extremists that left 4 dead. Papers and folders scattered across office floors, cabinets and shelves swung open, flipped over furniture, shattered windows, empty fire extinguishers.
They broke the glass. Everybody stay down, get down.
As we said, 4 people died yesterday as that mob stormed the Capitol building in an attempt to disrupt the certification of Joe Biden's presidential victory. 1 woman, an Air Force veteran from San Diego, was shot and killed. 3 others died from injuries. Senators and House members were forced to evacuate, but after the chaos cleared, they reconvened and carried on until early this morning, officially certifying Joe Biden's win. And the president-elect responded this morning yet again to the violence that happened at the Capitol. Take a listen.
Yesterday, in my view, one of the darkest days in the history of our nation. An unprecedented assault on our democracy. An assault literally on the citadel of liberty in the United States Capitol itself. An assault on the rule of law. An assault on the most sacred of American undertakings, ratifying the will of the people in choosing the leadership of their government. All of us here grieve the loss of life, grieve the desecration of the people's house. But what we witnessed yesterday was not dissent, it was not disorder, it was not protest. It was chaos. They weren't protesters. Don't dare call them protesters. They were a riotous mob, insurrectionists, domestic terrorists. It's that basic, it's that simple. And I wish we could say we couldn't see it coming. But that isn't true. We could see it coming. The past 4 years, we've had a president who's made his contempt for our democracy, our Constitution, the rule of law clear in everything he has done. He unleashed an all-out assault on our institutions of our democracy from the outset. And yesterday was but the culmination of that unrelenting attack.
Meanwhile, multiple Trump officials resigning overnight and this morning. The latest, Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao. Chao's the wife of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and the first Trump cabinet member to quit in connection with Wednesday's chaos. Also calling it quits, one of the president's longest-serving aides, Stephanie Grisham. She served as White House press secretary and was most recently the First Lady's chief of staff. The White House social secretary and the deputy press secretary as well resigned. And in the wake of the siege yesterday on our nation's capital, presumptive Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Leader Nancy Pelosi are calling on Vice President Mike Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove President Donald Trump from office. This as a group of House Democrats began circulating articles of impeachment. Under a provision of the 25th Amendment, the vice president can, with support of the majority of the cabinet, invoke the measure and declare Trump unfit for office, which could lead to his early removal. Earlier today, Representative Adam Kinzinger of Illinois became the first Republican in Congress to call for Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment. Meantime, this morning, after Congress officially confirmed Joe Biden's win of the presidential election, President Trump committed to an orderly transfer of power. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Dan Scavino released a statement from the president over Twitter. It reads, quote, "Even though I totally disagree with the outcome of the election and the facts bear me out, nevertheless, there will be an orderly transition on January 20th. I have always said we would continue our fight to ensure that only legal votes were counted. While this represents the end of the greatest first term in presidential history, it's only the beginning of our fight to make America great again." And we have reaction from local elected representatives on both sides of the aisle. And in rare form, Democrats and Republicans appear to be united in condemning yesterday's violence. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy addressed fellow members of Congress last night, getting personal, calling for peace and unity.
It was the saddest day I've ever had as serving as a member of this institution.
A sad day, says Congressman Kevin McCarthy, as he spoke before the House of Representatives just hours after this. Once again, the tally of the death toll from yesterday, 4 people. And while the Capitol was on lockdown, Democratic Congressman Jim Costa, who now represents Fresno, was smack in the middle of it all. He hid and sheltered in place in the gallery.
We saw a group of people that decided that they would take the law into their own hands and take upon a treasonous act, because that's what this is, a treasonous act. They were urged on by the president, sadly, and they stormed the Capitol to disrupt our process.
When the House reconvened, McCarthy and 120 other Republican members of Congress formally objected to the presidential results in Arizona. Valadao was not present for the vote. In the end, the House rejected that objection, 303 votes to 121. And while hundreds of rioters violently made their way into the Capitol building, another kind of protest took place on Twitter as many Republican lawmakers took to the platform to share their thoughts on the president's handling of the situation. 17's Taylor Schaub joins us with reaction from a number of notable Republicans.
Before the social media giant took the unprecedented step of temporarily suspending the president's account for spreading misinformation, the commander-in-chief's actions were condemned by several key members of his own party. Congresswoman Liz Cheney and daughter of former Vice President Dick Cheney said there is no question that the president formed the mob, the president incited the mob, the president addressed the mob, he lit the flame. Republican Senator Mitt Romney from Utah released a blistering critique of the president, saying that the day's events were the result of a selfish man's injured pride and the outrage of his supporters, whom he deliberately misinformed for the past 2 months and stirred to the action of what happened that morning. He added that what happened at the Capitol was an insurrection incited by the President of the United States. Illinois Congressman Adam Kinzinger offered harsh words of his own towards the president, calling the attack a coup attempt, tweeting directly at the president saying, "You are not protecting this country. Where is the D.C. Guard? You are done, and your legacy will be a disaster." Well, Senator Ben Sasse said the Capitol was ransacked while the leader of the free world cowered behind his keyboard, tweeting against his vice president for fulfilling the duties of the oath of the Constitution. He adds that his lies will have consequence and this violence was inevitable and the ugly outcome of the president's addiction to constantly stoking division. And finally, just days into his first term in Congress, Representative Peter Meyer, a Republican of Michigan, denounced Mr. Trump, saying, "Enough. Acknowledge Biden as president-elect and end this madness." Violent rioters laid to siege the nation's capital in the act of insurrection unparalleled in modern times. This is not leadership. Now, in the case of President Trump's own Twitter account, Twitter is set to reactivate him on the platform this morning, but warned him of permanent suspension if violations continue. In studio, Taylor Schaub, 17 News.
Now, Facebook founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg is blocking President Trump's Facebook account indefinitely. Zuckerberg says Trump's actions over the past 24 hours show that he intends to undermine a peaceful transition of power come January 20th. Even though Trump said he would commit to an orderly transfer. The CEO says both Facebook and Instagram accounts are blocked at least for the next 2 weeks until that transition of power is complete. A major state newspaper is taking aim at Bakersfield Congressman Kevin McCarthy and other California GOP House members following yesterday's siege of the Capitol. The Sacramento Bee editorial board overnight came out with a blistering column saying that several California House Republicans, including McCarthy, must be held responsible for yesterday's events and, quote, face prosecution for the seditious Capitol attack. The SAC-B wrote in part, especially guilty of fomenting sedition are several prominent California congressmen, chief among them House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, a soulless anti-democracy conspirator who would be glad to see this nation fall so that his political ambitions might live. We reached out to the congressman, but his office had no comment. Buried in yesterday's news cycle, the NBC News projection that Democrat Jon Ossoff has defeated Republican David Perdue in the Senate runoff race in Georgia. His victory comes as fellow Democrat Raphael Warnock defeated Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler in Georgia's other runoff contest. The twin Democratic victories give the party control of the Senate and a major boost to the fortunes of President-elect Joe Biden's cabinet nominees and legislative agenda. The Senate will now stand at 50 Democrats and 50 Republicans, allowing incoming Vice President Kamala Harris to cast the tie-breaking vote. The 33-year-old Ossoff will become the youngest U.S. senator. Let's send it over to Kevin. He is at home today with a look at your forecast. Kev?
Good afternoon, Maddie. Good afternoon to everyone. And if you've looked outside, we've got some clouds. We talked about that this morning. We even saw some fog to the north up near Delano. 55 degrees in Bakersfield at this time with a west-northwest wind light at 6 miles per hour. 55 in Sacramento today, 54 in Fresno, and a nice day down in LA and San Diego. Some clouds in 60s and lower 70s. Now, air quality today, moderate with an AQI at 72 for you. Today, we're calling for mostly cloudy skies, a light wind, 58 in Bakersfield, 56 in Delano with 55 in Taft. For the mountains in the Kern River Valley, mostly cloudy, 59 in Frazier Park, 57 in Tehachapi, and 60s for the Kern River Valley. Lake Isabel at 65, 64 in Kernville. Out in the desert today, a little bit more sunshine here with an easterly wind right around 5 to 10 and 61 in Mojave. Here's your extended forecast. Tomorrow, this should be out of here. We'll look for sunny skies Friday and Saturday, and then partly cloudy skies return Sunday through Wednesday. Very little change on the temperatures, still keeping the upper 50s and 60s. A little bit of an increase next week. By Wednesday, mid-60s for you. And then for the mountains, sunny skies expected for Friday and Saturday. Partly cloudy skies Sunday through Wednesday. Temperatures will be in the 50s and 60s. Still cool overnight with those 30s. And then for the Kern River Valley, sunny skies for your Friday and Saturday. And then some clouds will roll in Sunday, Monday, Tuesday of next week. And temperatures remain into those comfortable 60s overnight. Still a chill in the air with the 30s and 40s. And if you're going to, again, be out today, expect these clouds to kind of hang around, but not expecting no rain. But a very dry forecast in store for us. Maddie, we'll send it back to you.
All right, welcome back. In your 17 Health Watch, alarming new numbers show our local hospitals are quickly filling with people infected with coronavirus. State data shows that 446 people in Kern are in the hospital with the virus. 94 are in the ICU. Both of those numbers are records. Meantime, we're still waiting for data on new cases from our local health department. We'll keep an eye out and let you know when we receive an update. The first week of the new year has proved to be a grim one. The United States set daily records for both confirmed cases and COVID-related deaths yesterday. That's according to an NBC News tally. The U.S. reported more than 268,000 new cases and more than 3,900 deaths. Those numbers surpassed the previous record set on Saturday. Since January 1st, there have been over 1.3 million new coronavirus cases recorded in the country, and over 15,000 people have died. Kern Public Health is encouraging residents to get tested, even if you're not showing symptoms. Yesterday, they released information on 11 free coronavirus testing sites across the county. Those sites include the Kern County Fairgrounds, Sagebrush Medical Plaza, Clinica Sierra Vista in Bakersfield, Arvin, and Lamont. All testing sites are available for walk-ups or drive-through. You can find these sites plus a full list of our local testing sites at Kern Public Health's website. There's an interactive map in both English and Spanish, plus information on hours of operation, addresses, and other important information. And the Kern County COVID-19 Latino Task Force is offering free tests throughout the week. And now to the latest on the lawsuit between local restaurants and Governor Gavin Newsom. A Kern County judge yesterday refused to issue an injunction to at least temporarily allow outdoor dining again. This after finding the plaintiffs failed to show the governor exceeded his legal powers with recent executive orders, or that the court even had the authority to issue the injunction. While acknowledging, quote, "We're in some unique areas here," Superior Court Judge Kenneth G. Pritchard said during the hearing he didn't believe he had the authority to overturn the outdoor dining ban. Pritchard also did not find Governor Gavin Newsom acted irrationally in issuing executive orders that closed dining rooms and other establishments in an effort to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Houchin Community Blood Bank is in dire need of blood and plasma donations, especially as the pandemic wages on. Houchin says that it is most in need of blood types O and A. They're also asking for donations of COVID-19 convalescent plasma, with their inventory decreasing by 74% since December 1st. Houchin says as COVID-19 cases rise, the supply is dwindling. To see if you can donate and to schedule an appointment, head to hcbb.com/COVID. 17 Court Watch now. A man arrested in a double homicide last weekend in Bakersfield is due in court later today. Marshals arrested 28-year-old Omar Uranda in Moore Park Tuesday. Bakersfield police say Luis Ramirez and Rudy Rene Casillas were shot and killed January 2nd at the Vagabond Inn on Colony Street. The department says the victims were found dead in one of the rooms. BPD also confirmed it has arrested 25-year-old Mario Velasquez in connection with the shooting. He was in court yesterday, but the hearing was postponed.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Noon.
The 17 News at Noon podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to KGET.com.